Greetings and welcome to ValueU. I'm Zaladrith and I'll be your instructor for today. Today's case study is on macro repositioning. Before this clip begins, our team got info that all surviving enemies were C long. This meant that map control across the entire rest of the map was temporarily free, so we knife ran to take space until we got within their audio range. We didn't want to make any noise on the flank since it would risk forcing them to push site 2v1 in order to avoid us. My breach also fears that waiting too long would also result in their push, since the likeliest route for the enemies with so little time left is to take the nearest site, so he decides to initiate with ulti. My Sage, perhaps expecting them farther away, not only doesn't wait for me or the ult, but also slow peeks into them. I knife run forward to maximize my speed in an attempt to trade her, but decide to go quiet after she dies since the trade timing is lost, so I instead hope that my footsteps were drowned out by the ult and gunfire. For some reason I slow peek instead of silent fast peeking wide, which probably would have been the better option here. Since Breach is still facing this direction and drawing his gun, it's likely that he heard my footsteps after killing Sage while drawing knife to try to outrun the ult. My Breach tries to fight a hopefully stunned Omen before the stun would wear out, but he avoided it by playing in a safe pocket, and the Omen reduces this game now to a 1v1. At this point, the strategy begins. My immediate instinct is to silently reposition because the game was reduced to a 1v1, so I immediately knife walk away. Rather than fixating on the position of the spike, I think of the enemy position as a series of likely routes. Due to the amount of time left in the round, I assume that the likeliest route is for him to silently pad the spike and then plant C site. In doing so, he also still has to respect my previous location, which greatly increases the chance that he slows down and or wastes utility. Once I'm around the corner and safe, I now consider other possible routes he can take. A is too far away to reasonably reach with the amount of time left, and the only other viable options are haystacks to B or garage to C. Taking either of these routes would be extremely dangerous and force him to cross many angles. If he runs at all, I'd be able to hear it and adjust my positioning to match. If he shift walks most of the way on those routes with his gun out, he'd barely have enough time to plant. Thus, I decide to ambush him on his way to C site from C long, when he's under more time pressure and has no idea where I might be. Now I pause here because those were my instincts and thoughts in just those moments. Reflecting on it now, those instincts were based on the feeling that I should be at an advantage, and then choosing to decline the fair fight offered to me. After all, we both know roughly where the other is, and we both have our util. Unless I get a timing on him while he's still clearing on the way to the spike, we should both have crosshair placement ready when we meet, since if he slices the pie properly, even an off angle shouldn't surprise him here. If we use utility, there's a world where he nearsights me or smokes the spike or I do the same to him, but that can happen on site anyway, so I defer thought on that to the eventual showdown on site, since at that point I would know his location with high probability and he would not know mine. While pathing to C, I imagine how far he could have ranged in each direction. If he's an absolute madman, he could have ignored spike like I did, and pathed up C long to go through garage to try to look for a flank kill on me if I was holding the spike from a stationary location, giving up on planting the spike and just going for an elimination victory instead. So I take my gun out since it doesn't cost me much to reduce that threat of that unlikely option. After clearing this first angle and not seeing him, it's also possible at this point that he's already gotten the spike and is shift walking to site, but I figure that it's very likely that he would have wasted more time carefully peeking angles and possibly using util while retrieving the spike. Notice that I hold my crosshair very close to the corner as I don't respect him enough to expect him to silent fast peek me, and expect him to walk peek instead. Now, I first choose this spot in case he decided to path mid to garage after grabbing the spike, but after a moment's thought, I decide it's extremely unlikely, and in the likelier case that he comes up long, I'm in a much worse position than if I play the second spot. I still make the mistake of checking garage here instead of committing to my gamble, which jeopardizes the value of me taking this gamble in the first place. Now, I choose this exact position because it gives me a lurk angle on his approach to site. It's the kind of angle where you can only clear it if you expressly check it, and with so little time left in the round, it's extremely unlikely that he expects it. I also choose to hold my crosshair placement wider here since I know that if he does decide to check this spot, either he wide swings it from close due to lack of time, or if he slow peeks it with angle advantage, I'm pretty much dead anyway. So hearing his panic steps finally coming up long, I'm relieved and I decide to time my swing after he would look at garage, in hopes of reducing his chances of seeing me. I make the small mistake of tapping W on my peak, but his panic at the time remaining at this point is so great that it doesn't matter. I didn't decide to wait longer since that would give him the chance to cross back site, which would then give him cover from me for the plant. Now looking at everything in hindsight here, I assumed that he'd waste time and possibly util long, and he wasted far more time than I could have hoped for, while even giving me his exact location for free with footsteps. If he had played more carefully, some likely places that I could have been watching him from are garage if I was slower with my repositioning, or coming up after him in long after hearing his footsteps if I was playing a safer angle in spawn and he had used util to zone me off or something. so I'm somewhat surprised that he wasn't expecting me at least a little bit, but the time pressure was probably getting to him. Additionally, there's also some world where I knife walk to mid-grass, then knife run through B to the back of C, teleport across to the platform while far enough away that he can't see or hear me, and even play in the little cubby on top of platform. So maybe to him I could actually just be literally anywhere, so he was just praying that I was too far away to punish his plan, and considered himself a goner otherwise. In any case, from initially choosing to decline a fair fight because I could smell an advantaged fight elsewhere, I was rewarded with a fight where I played from a lurk angle knowing his exact location, and with him possibly having wasted util and pretty much not knowing my location at all, allowing me to shoot him in the back of the head with a mere 8 seconds left in the round for him to plant. In summary, if you feel like you should have advantages but are choosing to take a 50-50 fight or worse, it might be good to decline the fight, take the time to reposition, and use that spare time thinking about how to use your advantages. Repositioning in a 1v1 wastes time and causes both players to lose track of each other, so it's perfect for when they're low on time and when you know where they're going to be. Since you know the routes they must take, use their direction of traffic to pick an ambush point of your choosing that optimizes for defender's advantage. Be ready to improvise lurk angles. Visualize the edge of fog for all possible places the enemy might be. Gamble on the paths that you feel are most likely, maintaining vigilance for the unlikely paths that cost little to expect, and discounting the unlikely paths that would jeopardize the advantages from your likeliest cases. And if you get punished when gambling on the opponent's choices, that just means you can adjust your valuation system of likelihood and the value of your advantages. That's all for today's lesson. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to the lecturer or the TAs in the comments below. Thanks for attending, and we hope you enjoy your stay here at ValoU.